A very good evening to you. Welcome to the West Ham Weekly on the West Ham Voice on Monday night. I hope you're all doing well. I hope you've all had a good start to the week and looking forward to what we finally got football back, haven't we? Proper football, not that international rubbish, etc., but proper Premier League football that we can all moan about and have a right old moan about how awful we still are and what Graham Potter should and shouldn't be doing and all that sort of stuff. But look, it's a weird one for content creators because when you don't have any football to talk about, you have to start talking about a whole load of other crap that's out on social media. And of course, there's columns have got to fill, social media columns have got to fill their space and they've got to write about something, haven't they? And sometimes you get to realize that an awful lot of stuff that they write about isn't worth the space that they've written it in. And the first thing, of course, is that apparently Karren Brady is leaving West Ham. Or is she? Well, we know that's not true, don't we? A report that West Ham's vice chairman, Karren Brady, could be replaced by the new Hammers chief commercial officer, Nathan Thompson, has been dismissed by a club insider this afternoon. The social media channel called Football Insider, quoting their finance expert, Stefan Borson, claimed that Nathan Thompson could be earmarked to replace Karren Brady in the future. Last week, Thompson was appointed, as I've said, to the operating board at West Ham as an executive director after being appointed the CCO back in 2022. So he's clearly doing something right to get the promotion. Borson said to the Football Insider, there are not that many executive directors on that board. There are lots of non-execs, but not that many execs. And I think there are now two. Karren Brady is a vice chair. I would say that it's a sign that Thompson is doing a very good job, and it's an endorsement for him to be getting bigger jobs in the future. Watch this space. And then he went on to say, I doubt it's imminent, so it could happen in 10 years' time. Why not report it now to be ahead of the game? But maybe it serves as a successor to Karren Brady at some point. I mean, it's great, isn't it? That you tell a story, then you say, of course, it's not imminent. Could happen anytime. Could happen tomorrow. Could happen in a year's time. Could happen in 10 years' time. May never happen at all. So apparently this is the second time that in a week that Football Insider social media channel has claimed that Karren Brady is on her way out and insisting that Thompson is now in line to be West Ham's next managing director after making this step up to executive director. Do you follow? An awful lot of directors. Anyway, Sean Whetstone, after speaking to a senior source earlier today, provided this reply from the senior source. I don't think Karren is going anywhere for a long time. So there you go. Like I said, it's quiet. You've got to talk about something. So why not make something up? Well, I'm not saying it's made it up completely, but I guess it fills a few columns, doesn't it? And it's even got me talking about it. Do I care? Not really. Do you care? Probably less so. What else have we got? Well, I guess the real news, really, apart from when the football restarts, is the ongoing FA hearing about Lucas Paqueta. It's going into its third week, with the player suggesting that he wishes for the process to be done because the stories coming out from West Ham is that it's taken its toll on the player on a mental level, mentally. Look, there is such little news to give you about what's happening. The one thing I actually like about, it's not that I like, but the one thing I respect about this whole Lucas Paqueta issue is that there are no leaks, nothing is coming out. It's airtight. We do not know how it's going, what the process is, how the process is happening, any sort of outcomes, any possible outcomes, etc. Nothing is coming out. Now, we're led to believe that even if the case concludes, probably the end of this week, maybe beginning of next week, is that possibly the outcome won't be put out there for several weeks yet. It may even be held
until the end of the season, which will be kind of very unfair to Lucas Paqueta himself. I'm sure his legal team will probably be made aware of it. But unless they leak something out, we're not going to get to hear anything about it for several weeks yet. I don't mind that. I don't mind that because it means that the process is working the way it should. It should be kept under wraps. Why should we all find out about what's happening to Lucas Paqueta before the player himself finds out? You know, that's what social media does, isn't it? That's what ITKs and journalists do. They want to tell you something before the person involved gets to know about it. So I respect the process that's happening, you know, because everything is being kept airtight. Of course, we're wishing for the outcome to be a favorable one for the player, but we just don't know at this moment in time. It's clearly serious. It's been taken very seriously. I guess anything can happen, and we'll just wait until we find out in the proper way. Okay, before I go into all the other news, which there's not a lot of, I'm going to go into the chat and say hello to people. Now, I did say in the detail, going to try and make this a Q&A and mainly focus on who starts up front. Not only let's focus on the game against Wolves. I did a preview about the game earlier on today, but I'm kind of like, since I've seen the training videos, I've got a slight sort of variance on what I think the starting lineup may be, or should I say, the formation of the starting lineup. So before we get into that, and before we get into the other West Ham news, let's see who's on chat tonight. Usual 21:33. I think you're wrong. I think I was maybe 30 seconds late, if that. Good evening, Daniela. How are you? Hope you had a great weekend. Let's start pressing. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. If you're new to the channel, or if you are already a subscriber, if you, even more so, if you're a subscriber, don't think that not pressing the like button doesn't help you. That really does. So, subscriber or not, please do hit the like button of this video. Toha, good evening, mate. I think you were right there, mate. Toha again. If you do a Q&A, I have a queue. Am I the only one triggered by that friggin' Gillette advert? I hate the music. Pisses me right off. I don't know which one you mean. Now you're going to make me listen to watch the Gillette advert, aren't you? When I probably don't even want to. I can't answer you, I'm afraid, Toha, because I haven't got it in my head. And I know the minute I listen to it, I'm going to be pissed off at you recommending me to watch it to see if I get triggered or not. Graham, evening, everybody. At last, some football that actually means something. Absolutely, indeed. Daniela, just been watching West Ham 5 versus Bradford City, 1999, 2000 season. What a game that was. Don't see the games like this anymore. What a team we had. What a bunch of nutters. Was that the one where Di Canio sat down and said, take me off? Oh, he had about 3 or 4 penalties turned down. Matt, good evening, mate. I hope you're well. Oi to you as well, mate. Matt again, 9 games left. Can't wait to the end of the season. We need to rebuild and return this so-called project again. You know, I did a show the other day. Oh, actually, I wish I'd included the details on that. Have I actually got, bear with me 1 second. That would be a good talking point. Have I got, which one was it? Was it that one? No, it wasn't. Got the wrong one there. So let's get rid of that. Remove that. Let's make sure I've got the right one here then. Oh, that was the thing. Bear with me. I'm talking to myself. I want to see if I've got it. If I've got it, I'll do that. Is it that one? No, it's not that one. Damn it. How bad am I? That would have been a good talking point, actually, to talk about who we should keep and who we shouldn't keep. Because I did a show on it the other day. Now, of course, when I want to find it, I can't find it. There it is. There it is. Okay, we'll do that as a talking point later on. Who do we keep and who do we not keep? Because I did a show on it the other day, but it was a pre-recorded. So it'd be quite interesting to see what your thoughts are on a live show. So thank you for that, Matt, about rebuilding. I'm going to see. There you go. The show's going to last longer than an hour now. Who else we got here? Matt again. Please remind me who's in charge of the transfers in our business. Surely Sully ain't involved. Will Noble have a bigger role with the academy? Do you think Potter will use the likes of Earthy and Potts? Noble's not involved in transfers, but certainly in recommending academy players. I think Sullivan will be involved. Carl Macaulay, the new right-hand man of Graham Potter, will be very heavily involved. And we've still got the scouting network, well, ironically, most of it that Tim Steiden set up. Max Hahn, the data specialist, has been retained, so he'll be involved as well. As for will Earthy and Potts be involved, I think Scars will. I think Potts will get a good chance. I don't think any of the others will. Jason, good evening to you. The Bradford game was one of the best I went to see. Anthony, good evening, mate. I hope you're well. Good evening to you, Stephen. I'm very well, mate, and I hope you are too. Matt, what happened there? Saw stats the other day about how crap football has gone. 2006, we had 2,500 tackles and less than 1,500 yellow cards. That was 22-23, less than 2,000 tackles and more than 1,500 yellow cards. Yeah, the game's changed. It's almost a non-contact sport. Toha, who out of Fullkrug and Ferguson will be on the field for most minutes? That's the first bit. And then the second part, who will score the most goals? Do you mean the Wolves game? I think probably Ferguson will be on longer than Fullkrug. And I think throughout the season, Fullkrug will score more goals than Ferguson. There you go. Darren, good evening to you. I hope you're well. Thank you for joining, mate. Much appreciated. The Bowling Lounge, how are you guys? I hope you're all well. Anthony, would I start Guilherme up front alongside Bowen? No, I wouldn't. I certainly use him from the bench without a doubt, but not start him just yet. Chris, good afternoon. Good evening to you, mate, from Bridlington. I hope you're well, mate. Thank you for joining. Who else have we got here? Let's Sean, good evening, mate. I hope you're well. Thank you for joining as well. Good evening to you, Stephen. How are you, mate? I hope you're well. Good to see a few regular faces. Martin, how are you? Who else have we got here? Any questions? If you've got questions, please ask before I get on with the rest of the show. Trudge, with the new internet law, they sneaked in last week. You better be careful not to cause offence still. What internet law? I can't keep up. What now? What's changed? You know what? You're going to have to tell me because I actually genuinely, I should know, but I don't know. But you know, I try not to offend anyone anyway. James, good evening, mate. I hope to all you king here. I do worry about you. Darren, hello, mate. I hope you're well. Mark, good evening, mate. Still, how many points do you think we'll get from April fixtures? Away to Wolves, home to Bournemouth, away to Liverpool, home to Southampton, away to Brighton. Look at that. 2 games in March. All of a sudden, we've got 5 games there. Let's see. 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 13, I'm going to say. There you go. You know, I'm silly like that. Who else we got? Matt. I don't like nor respect GSP, but rather keep Brady than little leg Sully. Look, we may not like her. She's a good businesswoman, though. We know that. Anthony. Brady is never going to leave the club. I doubt it very much. Daniela, Football Insider are clueless. They know nothing about football. I'm with you there, to be quite honest with you. Usual. The sooner she goes, the better. The horror supports the horror supports Arsenal. Yeah, we know. And she made a point of saying that, didn't she, in that interview that she did recently? Obsidian, good evening, mate. Good evening to you, Paul. How are you, mate? I hope you're well. Matt, Saka is back. Do you think Bowen should have done more with England? I think Bowen was played in a bit of a different role for it. It's ironic, isn't it, that we talk about Bowen not being played in his rightful role at West Ham, being played up front instead of being played out wide. And I know he was out wide, but he kind of was given a bit of a different role. He wasn't asked to run at the players the way we know he does for West Ham. I feel sorry for Bowen in that respect, but I'm glad that he got game time. I think he did all right. But I think it was what he was told to do, to be quite honest with you, during his England time. Mark, not sure that Potter will start Ferguson. I think he was brought in purely as cover in case another forward got injured. Why should we play him if we're not going to sign him? I agree. I do agree with that, to be quite honest with you. And that's what I said last week as well. Good evening to you, Bled. How are you, mate? Bledar, how are you, mate? I hope you're well. Let's hope we can nick a win. Let's hope we can win convincingly. It's better for us if you don't play for England, Trudge. Yeah. Well, England will never win anything unless there are 3 West Ham players in that squad. We know that, don't we? Jared Bowen, Aaron Wan-Bissaka, and quickly, another one. Almost said Creswell for a minute there. Max Kilman. There you go. The minute we have Max Kilman, Aaron Wan-Bissaka and Jared Bowen in that England squad, we'll be on to winning ways, won't we? Trudge, they either get injured like Green and Ashton or Antonio, or tapped up like Rice when playing for England. You know what? That's so true. Sean, leaked update is saying FA has yet to present any direct evidence linking Paqueta to bets. Well, we know, that, let me get this right. He himself, as we know, didn't make any bets. But it's whether he encouraged other people, any contact links to encourage other people to make bets, which is the spot fixing. And if that is the leak, that there's no direct evidence yet, then good for him. Obsidian, I've heard Paqueta has just been bet a grand. He'll be found. I find that funny. That Darren, always hold my breath when Hammers play for England, Ashton, etc. Good evening to you, Bill. How are you, mate? Thank you for joining. I hope you're well. Good evening to you, Frog. I hope you're well. Smashington Bear, like button, Smashington Bear. Well, thank you for pressing that like button. KFC advert. I should be getting paid if I keep mentioning all these company names. Is the worst. I think that pizza one. The one where they see, this is how much I don't listen to it when they call out woo, or whatever it was. I hate. I'll always look at my partner and go, why? They get paid good money for creating these ads, you know. And he's I don't know what it is. I don't know which advert it is, but yeah, I think you get my drift, don't you? There you go. England Pizza Hut. Is that the one? Is that the one where they call out? Oh God, you just want to smack them, don't you? James, do you think they should shave some time off the ads, Toha? They should just not have ads at all. But you then, I guess, you know, you won't have any TV. Lee, good evening, mate. I hope you're well. Good evening to you, Charles. How are you, mate? And another Charles Pearson. How are you, mate? I hope you're well. Will the Hammers play well after the break? They have not played well after, never play well after a break. And let's hope we break that duck against Wolves tomorrow night. Daniela, well done to the girls coming back from getting a 2-2. Oh, hang on. You know I'll mention them. Hang on. Kevin, good evening to you. I hope you're well. Paul, thank you very much, Kevin. Much appreciated. Paul, why do they put so much water on football pitches? Players constantly slip it over. It's to keep the ball. It's to make the ball go fast, isn't it? That's the reason why. Anthony, are we interested in the youngsters who are playing for? I'm taking no notice. Chris Rigg, I'm taking zero notice. Apparently, we've almost signed him. Really, you know. And then what's going to happen in the summer? What happened to Chris Rigg? Where's he? It's a bit like that Celtic youngster, Daniel Cummings. Apparently, we definitely signed him. And then there was a story out last week that Mark Noble was still negotiating. Well, we either have or we haven't. Clearly, we haven't. You know, and I take it all with a pinch of salt. You know, Rigg, Chris, I don't know is the honest answer. I don't believe any of it at this moment in time. It's far too soon. We don't even know who's leaving the club at this moment in time. Do you think playing up front tomorrow night, Stephen? Do you think playing up front? Who? Tell me who, Stephen. Daniela, question: Have we got to the USA this summer? What are everyone's thoughts on the travel warning to the USA for our government? Have they put out a travel? They haven't, have they? Beware of that orange bloke. Who else have we got? Graham, still, England will never win anything anyway. Well, you know, like I said, 3 West Ham players, you never know. Gennaro, good evening to you. Jonathan David's terms aren't outrageous. Around 12.5 million signing on fees, 7.5 million a year, 5-3. What do you think? If that's the case, that's not bad. I'm surprised it would. 7.5 million would be around about £150,000 a week, which is roughly what Lucas Paqueta's getting. A signing on fee of 12 mil, no problem. 5 mil, no. Yes. But yet again, I mean, see, this is why I try to ignore it, because, you know, the ITKs will tell you that we are 100%, you know, almost leading the race for him. We're not. We're not leading the race for him. Is there an interest? Absolutely. Of course there would be. Why wouldn't you be interested in a player like Jonathan David? Would we be on top of the pile to get him? Mark, do you know what Paqueta's uncle was convicted for? He was convicted for fraud, for match fixing. You know, he's really, I mean, in the thick of it. I think he could.
I don't know if he's been convicted yet. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think what's happening in Brazil, they've delayed the outcome of that case. Correct me if I'm wrong, but my last understanding is they delayed the outcome of that hearing until they see what's happening with Paqueta in the hearing with the FA. I don't think he's been convicted, his uncle, just yet. Yeah, he's in the thick of it, apparently. Anthony, that doesn't mean that Lucas Paqueta's in the thick of it too, though. Daniela, have you noticed the ticket prices? Nobody in their right mind would be paying them. There's a lot of people paying them, Anthony, over in America. They want to see the Mighty Hammers, but they're very expensive. Cheshire, good evening to you. I hope you're well. Not heard much talk about Kalen Casey. Have you heard anything? No, to be quite honest with you. Casey, you know, from what I keep hearing, is much respected, much admired, but he's just not there yet. I think Kalen Casey, just like I mentioned about George Earthy and maybe one or two other players, are likely to. Casey has not gone out on loan yet. My gut tells me if we're going to give him a chance to demonstrate what he's capable of, he will be sent out on loan in the next season, almost certainly. We've got a number of players like Callum Marshall, George Earthy, etc. They're out on loan at the moment with lower league clubs. We've got Casey is Earthy, sorry, is with a championship club. But the likes of Callum Marshall, who are playing in League One at the moment, Gideon Kodawa, etc. If they do, Callum Marshall, as we know, is doing exceptionally well for Huddersfield Town. There's a good chance that Callum Marshall will be sent back out on loan again, but this time to a championship club, much like what Freddie Potts has done. Freddie Potts was out on loan to Wycombe Wanderers last season, and this season he's on loan with a championship club, Portsmouth, doing exceptionally well. And I think probably that's the pathway. You know, you get put out to a low league club. If you do really, really well, then you go, okay, the next test, play for a championship team, see if you can do the same again, which Potts has done. He did it at Wycombe. He was their Hammer of the Year, wasn't he? Hammer of the Year. He was their Player of the Year. And now he's at Portsmouth, probably in line to get Portsmouth Player of the Year as well. And I guess that's what will happen with Callum Marshall. Kalen Casey is not on that trajectory yet. So I would imagine that if West Ham United want to really see what he's worth, he will be sent out on loan next season to a League One side or to a Championship side. I don't know. But I guess that's what will probably happen. Trudge, Brady loves paying agent fees and 165k a week wages. Yeah. But Sully does agree to him, doesn't he? Matt, keep politics out of the make-believe world of football, please. I will do. Thank you for putting me right. McKelsie, good evening to you. Thank you for joining, mate. I'm much appreciated. Who else have we got? Stephen. How many players we signed under Graham Potter in the summer transfer window? Let me come to that later on, because I have uploaded the images that I did a show on the other day about who I think might be leaving. That might give you a bit of an insight as to how many players. A lot of people are talking about there being yet another complete overhaul of the squad. I mean, we keep having overhauls of the squad. Yes, in a way we need them, but at the same time, I keep thinking it can't be good for us, because at this moment in time, we could, given the players that could be leaving, we could end up having to sign 12 players. I can't see that happening. Trudge, Jonathan David will string us along like Lingard wanting a big club. You know what? You're probably spot on there, because I just don't. He said it all the way. That's why I've maintained throughout the whole rumor saga with Jonathan David. I don't think we'll get him. It's not that we're not. He wants a Champions League team. He wants to play for in Champions League. He currently plays in Champions League. He has been for Lille. He wants to go to a big club. There's likes of Barcelona after him. Arsenal probably are interested in him. A number of other clubs will be. Look, I would be cock a hoop if we got someone like Jonathan David. But I make you right, Trudge. That's probably exactly what will happen. Bolin, West Ham will string us along, Trudge, right up until they sign Welbeck. James, hi from the west best coast. Good evening to you, mate. Thank you for joining. Much appreciated, James. Steve, good evening, mate. I hope I was there the other week. I hope you're doing well. Are we going to get a box-to-box players? Yes, I think we will be. I think that will be one of the priorities in the transfer window in the summer. I hope you're having a good time, mate. I was out there the other week. Beautiful weather. Trudge, Welbeck is actually decent, so no chance. That's true. Who else have we got? Let's scroll down. I am indeed, Kevin. I'll be making my way to Wolves tomorrow. And so look out for the post-match review with me, Wiggy, Paul, and whoever else is there. We'll try and stay sober, but I doubt it very much. Wiggy's already got the Prosecco for the train on the way up. Don't take the piss. Prosecco it is. Of course, a few rum and cokes as well, but it's a ritual now. We always get the Prosecco out and a bit of food. There you go. I like posh. Should be Fulham fans or something like that. Mackenzie, sorry, good evening. I've said good evening already. I was going to say good evening to Garino. I hope you're well, mate. Thank you for joining. Daniela, Jonathan David is going to Liverpool or City if he comes to the Premier League, or Arsenal, or a team like that. Or Barcelona. There you go. Garino, West Ham is like that old banger that needs a complete engine overhaul every 2 years, every year, more like. Usual. Wolves 75, West Ham 19-10, 2-1 draw. It probably will be a draw. Aaron, if David does come to us and only if David does come to us and only doing it so a big club comes in for him, then that means he'll have to score lots of goals for us to be okay. I'd be okay with that. Yeah, another step, but then and then everyone will go stepping stone. You know, and we'll all get upset again. Frog, getting the players we already have to gel in positions they work together is our main problem, in my opinion. It is difficult. I think I make you right. And when we talk about the formation that could be coming up for the Wolves game, you'll probably see, you're right there, Frog. Trudge, Rick and Banzuzi, we're looking, are we? You know, Banzuzi, we were dead cert. Well, I mean, do you remember in the winter transfer window, we signed him? Oh, no, actually, we didn't sign him because we didn't go in for him. You know, this is the problem with transfer rumors. Yeah, look, decent players, I've no doubt. But I'll believe it when I've got more confirmation. I'm Brew Iniesta. Good evening to you. I hope you're well. I just hope we don't end up with a team full of water carriers and get rid of all our flair players without replacing any. We need a box-to-box. Definitely we do. Graham, we might be an old banger, but we love it. Absolutely. Trudge, I should have signed Ryan Cherky for creativity. Reminds me of Pyatt, and he's having an amazing season since we've been continually linked to him. There you go. Right, let's do a bit of roundup, a bit of other news roundup, and then we'll get to who starts against Wolves, and then we'll do a little, splurge through the squad, and who stays, who goes, who do you think, etc., etc. But let's first of all do a quick roundup, and of course we're going to start with the women's team, and why not? All part of West Ham. Let's not forget the women's team had a great game at the weekend. They got a very creditable draw against high-flying Chelsea at the weekend. Shakira Martinez brace helped West Ham United women's team to a deserved 2-2 draw against league leaders Chelsea. West Ham were 2-0 down by the 21 minutes, but Martinez got her first goal on 42 minutes to make it a more competitive second half. Then into stoppage time, she grabbed her second, which shows a new vigour in West Ham United women's team. I was really not au fait with their manager. I can't remember her name. I was quite critical of her, and I said she should be sacked, but fair play to her. She's got good players in. She's turned it around. Academy, the under-18s were in action at the weekend as well. And they also got a creditable draw. They were in action away to Spurs at the weekend. And thanks to under-16s wing-back Riley Epho, his first goal for the under-18 level got us the point. Plus, there was a fantastic performance from Lanre Awesu in goal as well. Now, see what's happening with the under-18s and the under-21s. Under-16 players are getting into the under-18s team. There's a lot of them, almost an awful lot of the under-18s who were playing under-18 football last season are now playing in the under-21s. It's fantastic. It means that in a way that one or two of them could be ahead of the game in terms of getting recognised, etc. It can only bode well. So Spurs had the better of the game, and it was Awesu who kept us in it with a string of fine saves. But as the game progressed, West Ham were getting the better of the game, and after being a goal down by half-time, Ebho popped up to get an equaliser on the 49th minute. So congratulations to them. Loan news. So Freddie Potts, who we mentioned briefly a moment ago, was in the thick of it again.
As you know, I said last week, he signed a 4.5-year contract with West Ham till 2029. He helped Portsmouth's side take a big step towards safety in the Championship, securing their 10th home league win of the season with a 1-0 win over playoff contenders Blackburn Rovers. Saturday's win marked Portsmouth's 7th home victory since the turn of the year, an impressive run that has lifted them from second from bottom to 17th as they enter the Championship's home stretch. He's having a great season. Oops, I shouldn't have put that on there. Take that off there. I'll bring that up in a moment. George Earthy and Bristol City have their 7-match unbeaten run came to an end at the weekend against promotion-chasing Burnley, unbeaten in the league since November. Burnley struck early, and with the best defensive record in the division, Burnley saw out their 28th clean sheet of the season. Wow. 28 clean sheets. How boring must they be to watch, eh? Earthy, who had withdrawn from the England elite squad during the international break, made his return to competitive action with a 30-minute cameo. In League One, it was an uncharacteristic defeat to Callum Marshall's Huddersfield Town, who conceded 4 goals for the first time this season in a 4-0 defeat to Charlton at the Valley. In League Two, Patrick Kelly's Doncaster Rovers also helped keep their promotion hopes alive with a comfortable 3-0 victory over bottom of the table, Carlisle United. Fresh from international duty with the Northern Ireland under-21s, Kelly was introduced as part of a double substitution to help end a 3-game winless run. They are now just 1 point off automatic promotion with a game in hand over third-placed Port Vale. Well done to him. See? These players, they're playing in the lower leagues, they're getting experience. If they do, Patrick Kelly has done really, really well. He's played regularly for that club, for Doncaster, and he's played consistently and he's played really well. So he could be another player that comes back in the summer and then gets sent back out on loan again. Even though he's at the moment in League Two, he could be elevated immediately into the Championship on loan next season. Callum Marshall in League One, I think will probably be playing in the Championship on loan as well. And if they can prove it there's another couple of young players breaking through the ranks. It's superb. In the Vanarama National League, Reagan Clayton was a stoppage time sub as Dagenham and Redbridge earned a 1-0 win against fellow relegation strugglers Maidenhead United. And one tier below, National League South, Mason Terry's Hornchurch were defeated 4-2 at home to Western-super-Mare. Despite going 2 goals behind in the first half, Hornchurch fought back and were 3-2 down going into the final seconds. In a desperate attempt to equalise late on, Terry went up for a last-minute corner, but the ball fell to visiting captain Luke Coulson, who unleashed a long-range strike, which carried all the way into Hornchurch's empty goal. So there you have it. That's all the updated news. So what about West Ham and tomorrow's game? Now we go. It's been 17 days. It's been 2.5 weeks since we played a competitive game. Yes, we know that there was a friendly game that Potter arranged against Brentford last week with the likes of Andy Irving playing on a left side of a centre-back 3. But it's interesting what he did there. Do I think he's going to play in a left side of a centre-back 3 moving forward? Highly unlikely. I've already done a preview show, so please do watch that after this show. But the training session that was shown after I did the recording makes me think that Potter may be planning something different in the game tomorrow night. Now, Mohamed Kudus was seen primarily on the left-hand side of attack during drills, getting the ball to him. Well, interestingly, what if you watch the video carefully, he was starting off in a central position, sort of like a number 10 role or something like that. And then the ball was cut out to the left side. He would cut across, pick the ball up, and then cross it in. And it showed him doing that several times over. So I just wonder whether Graham Potter might be thinking either to be starting him as on the inside, maybe as a number 10 role, or perhaps, putting him in that position, but actually going out wide. Every time the ball's played down the flank, maybe he's the one that's going to go out wide and get it into the box. It's going to be quite interesting to see what happens. But let's say for argument's sake, Graham Potter does do that. Let's say for argument's sake, he would play him on the left side. What else would we have? What other setup will we have? Look, I still believe, despite what's happening with Paqueta and the FA hearing, I think Paqueta will start.
I think it will probably be a good thing to actually take his mind of what's going on. So get him out there, get him playing, which I think might not be a bad thing for Graham Potter to do with Paqueta. And of course, Jared Bowen will start as well. But what about up front? Do you think, and this is the main theme of tonight's show, do you think we need to have a striker starting? And if so, who would you drop? I want to know, if we have a striker starting, who would you take out of the team to accommodate a striker? Or would you change the formation? What would you prefer? We know Graham Potter is likely to go with a back five or a 3-5-2, a 3-4-3 kind of formation. You know, that's what he's likely to do. But would you change the formation to accommodate a striker? So this is what I think he will start with, to be quite honest with you. I think it's going to be something like this. Please don't get too carried away with who's up front. This time round, I put in the preview that I did, I put Bowen up front and Kudus together with Paqueta further behind. But he could start with something like a 3 at the back, a 4 in the middle, and then the 3 up front, with Bowen and Kudus either side of Paqueta. Now, that would make an awful lot of sense if we, during the training videos, having Kudus going out wide, getting the ball and crossing it in. But you would argue, of course, well, if you've got a player crossing the ball in with his natural left foot, surely you need a striker to get on the end of it, don't you? But I think this is what, and yes, I'll come to that in a minute, but I think this is probably the lineup that Potter will go with on Tuesday night, with Areola in goal, with Mavropanos, don't shoot the messenger, Mavropanos, Todibo and Kilman in a back three. Now, you know, I prefer Kilman in the center of a back three. That's my preference, but it's possible that we will see Todibo there, or maybe even Mavropanos there, with Todibo either to the right or in the center. And then I think he'll go with Souček and Alvarez in the middle too. Kind of gives us that little bit more protection. And then the two wing backs, I think it'll be Scarles and Aaron Wan-Bissaka. And then the 3 up front of Paqueta, Bowen and Kudus. It could be that. Now, he could change it and he could do something like this. He could go with a 5-4-1 formation. Again, you've got Kudus further out wide. But we know Kudus is not comfortable when he goes out wide. When he's played out wide, he kind of gets lost a little bit. You know, it's not his position. It's not comfortable for him. And I'm not so sure I would see this. But he could do a 5-4-1 formation where, but then, you know, Kudus doesn't really track back in the way that Bowen tracks back for Wan-Bissaka, etc. But it's possible. But then you'd argue even more so, well, hang on a minute. If you've got Paqueta up there, why not have a proper striker up there? There you go. You could do that. Will he drop Paqueta for it? I'm not so sure that he would, to be quite honest with you. But who would you drop to bring Ferguson? Oh, by the way, I think between the two, between Ferguson and Fullkrug, and judging by what was said in the press conference today by Potter, it's almost certain that if either of them are going to start or even come on from the bench, it's likely to be Ferguson coming on before Fullkrug. Why? Ferguson has demonstrated that he can be match fit. He played 70-odd minutes for the Republic of Ireland. He scored his goal, etc. So he's got more match fitness at this moment in time than Nicholas Fullkrug has. Fullkrug is back from injury, of course, but he might get some game time at the death of the game against Wolves tomorrow evening. But my thinking is that he's gonna play a 5 or a 3 at the back with a 4 or a 3 in the middle, and then a 2 or a 1 up front. Now, would he put Kudus out wide? I'm just not sure, to be quite honest with you. I'm not sure. I think Kudus plays a little bit better when he plays a little bit narrower, you know, because he's almost like a central player. But you could accommodate that. He would have to, maybe, Potter, in order to accommodate Kudus playing a bit narrower and having Ferguson in the team as well, he could go with a back 4. Now, if he goes with a back 4, then I think Emerson will be called in over Scarles. No disrespect to Scarles. I think Emerson just provides that little bit more experience, and Potter will go, all right, if I'm going to play with a back 4, I'm going to compensate. And in order to compensate, I'm going to put a more experienced player on the left. That makes sense. I think that's sensible. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. So if it goes with a back 4, it's got Wan-Bissaka, Todibo, Kilman partnering each other in the middle there, Emerson on the left. And again, Souček and Alvarez. I think Souček and Alvarez will start regardless. Bowen will obviously start. I'm pretty certain that he will play Paqueta. And then you got Kudus who play a bit more narrow. You could, of course, put Kudus in the middle, and you could put Paqueta slightly out left as well. That works. He's got a good understanding, a good relationship with Emerson. So that would work. And then put Kudus in the middle as well with Ferguson. So there you go. You can play a striker, but you probably either have to change the formation or you're going to have to change change the formation either to maybe a 5-4-1 or a 4-2-3-1. It's possible. But my gut tells me this is what he's going to start with on Tuesday night. Of course, Ferguson and Fullkrug will be on the bench, etc. But my gut tells me this is what he's likely to start with: a back three, a wing back two, two in the middle, and three up front, or a 3-5-2. And if it's a 3-5-2, it'll be Bowen and Kudus as the two, with Paqueta dropping slightly deeper. Maybe Paqueta there being slightly on the left of Alvarez in the middle, Souček on the right-hand side. That's what I think will happen. But you tell me. So let's do that. Let's see what comments you have, and then we'll get into the squad for next season. Thank you. Can't remember who mentioned it, but it was Frog, wasn't it? I think it was Frog. Thank you for recommending that. So who have we got there? Garino. I have no strikers since Potter came in. Having no strikers since Potter came in has been the main problem, and people still complain about the lack of goals. Dr. Watson just said, no shit, Sherlock. So you need to tell me, who do you think, if you want a striker starting, what would you have? What lineup would you have? Who else have we got? Rayhan Skinner, thank you for that, Darren. I was honest. I was dismissive of her. I said she wasn't good enough. She almost relegated Spurs when she was in charge of them. She almost relegated West Ham as well. But well done to her for turning it round. Martin, I wouldn't have had you down as a Prosecco drinker. You got to do what, you got to do. I'm drinking the rum and Coke at the same time as sipping them. It's all right. Going to a game, you feel a bit posh. There you go. I don't know. It's become a ritual. Wiggy does it. He just brings, with his lurid shirts, and he brings the Prosecco, and I think he thinks he's posh. There you go. He really ain't, but there you go. What else have we got? Potts is smashing it this year. Absolutely. Aaron, Kudus going on the left again. Yeah, I don't think it works. By the way, I got a message earlier on from someone I know that suggested that Kudus had picked up a knock and may not be available tomorrow. I can't corroborate that. I did actually put it in the time, and I went, no, actually, you know what? I don't know. So that's what I was told, but I can't corroborate. I did ask, and I was told Sezu. Anthony, Stell, would you say Potts is a box-to-box midfielder? Yes, he is. Would I say he's experienced enough to be trusted to take that role on next season? Probably not. But yes, imagine getting a really decent box-to-box midfielder and having Potts learn from that player, just like Skulls has been learning from Creswell and probably Emerson to play out on the left-hand side. What else we've got? Daniela, I was not impressed with any of the FA Cup times this weekend. I didn't see any of them, so I don't know. Frog, the girls have been like the under-21s this season, got better as it progressed. They have indeed. That's a good point. Usual report saying Haaland broke his ankle. Wow. Trodge. I always thought Patrick Kelly was better than Potts for our Premier League too. That's an interesting shout there, Trodge. Let's see how he gets on. Kelly's an interesting player. We've got one or two. Callum Marshall from we signed the player, didn't we? No, that was news, and I forgot about it. We signed another young Northern Irish player last week. Forgive me, I completely forgot about adding that into the show. So if anyone can remind me of his name, I'd be very grateful. But we've been signing quite a lot of young, decent, talented academy players, for Northern Irish academy players. Callum Marshall, Patrick Kelly, the player that we just signed, one or two others as well. So that's an interesting shout. It'd be interesting to see how Patrick Kelly gets on. Not very well known about Patrick Kelly, but doing exceptionally well for Doncaster. Who else have we got? Frog, we need players that can break egos and not bones. Darren, Haaland left Bournemouth with protected boot on. Interesting. Big clear out this summer, Hammer 84. This is what I'm kind of worried about, and I'll get to that in a minute. Once I've gone through your comments about who you think should be starting tomorrow, should there be a striker starting tomorrow? And then we'll talk about a big clear out. I'm just not sure. I think there's going to be a natural clear out. But and already quite a number of players from that natural clear out will be leaving. But we'll get to it.
Did I see that Chelsea just sold their women's team? I guess that is to ensure the club can buy more men team players. I don't know, to be honest with you. Troj, that's interesting, did they? Troj, played good as midfield next to Alvarez. Yeah, as a number 10, I think he would do actually quite well in that position. Garino, got to have a striker start, and I need you to tell me who you think should drop. Yes, to a striker playing. Tell me who. Tell me who comes in, who comes out. Which of the two? Fullkrug or Kudus? Not Fullkrug and Kudus. Fullkrug or Ferguson? And if so, who drops out of that midfield in order to accommodate a striker? Darren, take a midfielder out to accommodate a striker. Fine. Tell me who. Garino, same as Villa in the cup before injuries kicked in. I'll tell you what I'll do to help you along with that. Let me put that back up there. That's the one I think. Let me put it. No good. How about that? If you can see that, so at least so use that as a guide to tell me if you want a striker starting, who out of the midfielders are you going to drop? Would it be you've got 5 choices there, or do you go with a back 4? So would it be Souček? Would it be Alvarez? Would it be Bowen, Paqueta, or Kudus that you drop in order to accommodate a striker? Or do you drop a centre back to go with a back 4 in order to accommodate a striker? One of those two. So that's the question I've got to you guys. Daniela. Wolves forward Matthias Cunha is again absent as he serves. He is absent indeed. And I talked about that earlier on in the preview show today. Would play a variation of 4-5-1, but probably prefer a 4-1-4-1. So you probably drop Mavropanos for that, I would guess. Howard, after watching the drills the team were doing on YouTube, Kudus is playing on the net upset. Yeah, as I said earlier on, it did look that way, didn't it? Frog, bench Kudus and try out options. Interesting. Would you honestly drop Kudus? I think that's an interesting point. Not saying you're wrong. We're never entertaining with a back 3. I think we can be. I actually do. I think, if we're solid, if we play with a back 3 and have the wing backs marauding forward, I think we can be quite interesting. James, good evening, mate. I hope you're well. Paqueta has got to be dropped. Why though? Kudus has got to be dropped too. Both of them. I don't think both would be dropped to be. I think they'll both start. But I'll be interested to know why you think that. Out of form or whatever. Trod, 3 at the back and 2 full backs playing as wing backs. Yep. Are you saying, James, both not showing me that they're at the races? Trodge, square pegs. I don't know who's in a square peg there, to be honest with you. Wan-Bissaka. Everyone was saying at the beginning of the season, Wan-Bissaka is not a wing back. I beg to differ. I think he's done exceptionally well. I think Scars can do that role. I think the 3 centre-backs are the 3 centre-backs. And then I guess the only thing is up front. Paqueta as a number 9 could be a square peg, I guess. Anthony, Kudus needs to play in the number 10 role. I think a lot of people do think that. Who else have we got? Andrew. 9 dead rubbers left to play for this horrific season. Huge task ahead for the club and Potter to sort out before the start of the next season. We'll get to the squad in a moment. How far behind am I? Not far. So then we'll go on to who you think should be kept and should be sold in the summer. Daniela, Trod, I would say that I would not say that players in the squads are more flexible than they were 20 years ago. Interesting point. James, we can get too wrapped up in stats, which will say that Bone is better playing up top. Well, I did that, don't you? Off the back of the conversation we had. I did a stat. James and I had a conversation offline some weeks back, and I thought, you know what? I've got to look into this. I've got to find out. Is Bowen any better on the right than he is up front? Ironically, all the stats are almost the same. But I know what you're saying, James. Stats don't mean anything. Well, then they mean something. But stats can be used to prove a narrative, which I did prove the narrative. Trodge, Skulls and Wan-Bissaka both very good tacklers. Not really suits wing backs. Well, I beg to differ. I really do. I think they both look really comfortable playing as wing backs. I really do. Yes, you can move that to a back 4, definitely. But I think Wan-Bissaka has done exceptionally well, and I think Skulls is looking like a very young Aaron Creswell. The way he whacks that ball into the box with his left foot, I think, is superb. I think they both can play as wing backs. Trodge, you should play a system that suits the personnel. I think playing Wan-Bissaka and playing Skulls suits them. Up front, you may be right in terms of playing a false number 9. James, Trodge, I go back to Bowen in the Moyes season when Klopp feared Bowen would be playing out on the right, which is where I believe is his best position. It certainly is his best position,
but he can still play at a good striker role. James, look at Foden when he plays for England. Good player, but ask him to do it for England. It doesn't work. But the stats say it should work. Well, no, I disagree. I don't think Foden is as good in the various roles that he plays, whereas Bowen is adaptable as a player. Toha, what can West Ham offer strikers and box-to-box midfielders that other clubs can't? That also need those players. What can they offer that they can't? Seems everyone is changing the same unicorns. That is a good point. That's a very good point. Everyone's after a striker. Everyone's after a box-to-box midfielder, and they know they're in demand, so they could go to all the top teams. Sean, drop Ward-Prowse all day long. He's not even. I've not even picked Ward-Prowse, so you're going to have to drop another player to accommodate a striker. Trudge, 45 appearances, 4 goals will say Foden is awful for England, especially as we played many weaker teams. I would agree with that. James Ward-Prowse is already dropped. I've not got him in the starting lineup for tomorrow. Darren, drop Paqueta and play Fullkrug. Okay, I'll take that. Interesting point. But would you start Fullkrug over Ferguson, where Ferguson is clearly more match fit? Liquid, usual. Fire stick needed tomorrow. West Ham on any main channels? Oh, you could just go there. It's not easy to get tickets. Bolin, Areola, Emerson, Kilman, Todibo, Wan-Bissaka. So you've got a back 4. Alvarez, Paqueta, Kudus, Souček, Bowen, Ferguson, starting line. 4-1-4-1. Yeah, okay. Toha, hopefully Tont will do a watch along tomorrow. Tont, who's Tont? Fred, good evening, mate. I hope you're well. Got to play Ferguson, otherwise it's a waste of a loan. As was mentioned earlier, and I think Potter alluded to it, I think the reason why we got Ferguson in is to just in case we had a breakdown of players up front, and then he'll get more game time. I've got a suspicious feeling we're not keeping Ferguson next season. I could be wrong, but let's see. Andrew, apparently Potter wants a Gerd back for next season. Apparently that's the story as it goes at the moment. Sean, Alvarez as one of the back 3 opens up an extra Alvarez as one of the back 3 opens up an extra slot. Gennaro, Souček out, Kudus in the 10, Ferguson to start for me. Okay. I don't think Souček will be dropped, but fair play. Ralph, good afternoon. Good evening to you, mate. We cannot have a midfield of Souček and Ward-Prowse. That's not progression. Ward-Prowse is not in there. I've got Souček and Alvarez in there with players further ahead. Daniela, apparently I also want a Gerd back next season if he wants to stay. It's going to be interesting. That's one of the players I talked about during the show that I did last week. Let's see. I think what Potter wants to do is he wants to assess a Gerd. Doesn't necessarily mean he wants to keep him, but certainly assess him and see if, and also, as you've just said, Daniela, see if the player wants to stay. Andrew, playing Souček and Ward-Prowse together is dereliction of duty. Please stop doing it, Potter. There you go, people. My lineup for tomorrow doesn't have Ward-Prowse in there. So tell me who you're going to drop otherwise. Trudge, true, Ralph. Moyes tried it many times. At the end, what did he try in the end? Frog, just want to see some flexibility and experimentation. Nothing but information to be gained at this point. But this is the interesting thing, Frog. Potter is experimenting. Potter is trying things out, but he's getting blamed for playing square pegs in round holes. You can't have it both ways. You can't have experimenting and then blaming the head coach for playing square pegs in round holes. Can't be both. Trudge, problem is Souček is our main goal scorer. Ward-Prowse keeps possession, which Potter will love. There you go. So they've got a use for the head coach. Anthony, Mavropanos is an accident waiting to happen during a game. Wouldn't play him. Trudge, I want to see us show some urgency and not play everything so safe as the last game happens. Steve, Sella Gerd, he doesn't want to play here. That's the other side of the coin, isn't it? If he doesn't want to stay, I'm sure Potter will find that out straight away. There's a match of the day, and then he'll sell him. On Wednesday night, no doubt we'll be last if we were. Of course we will be. And if we won 10-0 tomorrow night, we'll still be on last. Paul, Ferguson doesn't look good. Drop Kudus and play the big F German. Anthony, Gerd, Kilman, Todibo, that's a good back 3. It would be if he wants to stay. James, West Ham game on USA Network too. There you go. There's a network that you can log into. Gennaro, Let's face it, Ferguson was a panic signing, which concerns me for the summer. Genuinely hope my fears are misplaced. I actually don't think he was a panic signing. I think he was deliberate, but I think in what was said, he was brought in as cover, which seems to indicate to me that he may not be kept on next season. So there you have it. That's my lineup. Let me get that back on. That's my lineup for tomorrow. Me personally, this is what I think will happen. I think Areola in goal. I think it'll be a back three with Mavropanos, Taribo, and Kilman. I think it'll be like a 4 with Wan-Bissaka and Skulls as the wing backs, with a centre 2 of Souček and Alvarez. And then I think he'll play like a 3 up front. Bowen and Kudus supporting Paqueta. Right. What about who's staying and who's going? So actually, let me get these last couple of comments in. Making substitutions 5 minutes before the whistle isn't flexible or learning anything. He's only done that a couple of times. Then let's not forget what he did at the beginning when he first started at West Ham. He had a very exciting looking team with Somerville, before he got injured, sort of doing the business. I think, in all honesty, I think Potter has done the right thing. We need to stop the goals leaking. Potter has stopped the goals leaking. We were being scored against for fun. That had to be stopped. That means a certain amount of conservatism when it comes to the team lineup, etc. Yes, fair enough. Now we're away from the relegation area. He could start getting a little bit more sort of exciting in his game plan. But I think he's done what was meant to have been done. I don't blame him for that. I think he's done the right thing. I think I've seen signs of West Ham United progressing under Potter. He's shown that he can be flexible in the style of play. He's shown he can play players. He put Somerville on the right side, and he was the best player on the pitch against Aston Villa in the Cup in that first game we was in charge of. No one expected that. I think he is, and he needs to be judged when he has the squad available to him next season. I think that's when we can make a judgment. If it's boring when he's got his own players in, then fine, we can have a go at him. Bill, Aguerd is a sunshine player, won't come back to the wet and the cold. He made injury comebacks every time on international duty. Very good point. James, still, hope we how we played against Villa when 2 injuries halted us. That's what we've been missing after that game. If the injuries didn't happen, we would be better set up now. Good point. Somerville was part of that. Darren, would you want a striker to start tomorrow still? When it comes to who we've got available, probably not, is my honest answer. I don't think I get it. And people keep saying we'll be better with a striker. Fullkrug is not match fit. Ferguson has only just gotten match fit. And I'm not so sure Ferguson has done enough in a West Ham shirt to suggest that we should be starting him, in all honesty. Because if we start Ferguson or if we start Fullkrug, we're going to have to drop one of these players. Yes, sure, you can go with a back 4. And maybe that's the answer. Maybe that's what an awful lot of fans want. They want us to go for a back 4. As Troger said, it's not exciting when you play a back 3, etc., etc. But at the same time, we don't want to get... Okay, it's against Wolves and they're below us in the league, etc. But they've been doing quite well. In the preview I did earlier today, I talked about Vito Pereira and how he's changed Wolves in much the same way as Potter has done with West Ham. He's stabilised them. He's solidified them. He's made them strong. He's stopped teams scoring against them, etc. He's had 5 clean sheets in the 13-odd games that he's been in charge in the Premier League, Pereira. Potter has had to do the same thing. Potter has had to stabilise the team, get a regular team out there. Wasn't it nice to see the same lineup, for a couple of weeks? Because we keep having chopping and changing. That was happening under the Lopetegui, and we were getting frustrated with that. So I like what Potter's done. Do I think we should have a striker on the pitch? Yes, if we play with a back 4. But I don't think we will play with a back 4 tomorrow. So I think Ferguson will start. I think Ferguson will come on from the bench and maybe even see Fullkrug as well. And I know a lot of people don't agree with that, but we've got very good players there that can do the business tomorrow, even if we don't start with a striker. Trodge, if we assigned a proper cover in January, we wouldn't have that excuse, what James said about injuries. About a striker, I've seen that now. Fake Dad, off topic, but I've got tickets for the West Ham Bournemouth game in Atlanta this summer. My first West Ham game. Shame it is in the London Stadium, or better yet, the Bowling, but I will take what I can. Good luck to you, mate, and I hope you really enjoy it. We knew Antonio was out for the season, but again, did things cheap. Trudge, what were we going to do? You know, a striker in the winter transfer window is an impossibility to get. And if you are going to get one, you're not likely to get one of the best ones. I get why we got Ferguson in. You know, he was available, and but Brighton wanted to sell him. We didn't want to buy him. I don't blame us for not wanting to buy him. I'm not so sure he's going to come good, to be honest with you. And we will go out and get ourselves a striker in the summer. But, you know, there wasn't a striker available. Otherwise, it would have cost us a huge amount of money to get a striker. And again, probably a makeshift. I'm happy with waiting until the summer to get the striker that we need then. Anthony, Guilherme, all day long up front, not for me. Maybe get a bit of game time, but not for me. James, Stell, was there any sign of Somerville versus Brentford? No, Somerville will not be back until the end of April. Now, I did the show last week and I said, you know, all these rumours that Somerville is out for the rest of the season and probably out for the beginning of the next season are all rubbish. That is not true. Somerville will be back in middle to the end of April. Martin, I don't think Ferguson or Fullkrug will start tomorrow. I do think Ferguson can come off if needed as a plan B. I agree with that as well. Andrew, would rather see Potts elevated over Ward-Prowse. We need to start evolving the squad as soon as possible in our pre-season. I agree. He's coming back and he will be used and hopefully he'll do well. Trudge, us buying strikers is equivalent to saving money and buying the broken biscuits at Tesco. Natasha, good evening to you. Tash, how are you? West Ham got to win tomorrow. Well, we've always got to win. Let's hope we do. Bolin, 4 at the back and 5 in the middle should be able to stem the flow of goals. It's just how you deploy them, not like Lopetegui. Fair point. Vape. Frog in the well, we got decent tickets near the supporter end. Looks like it was selling out fairly quickly. We're massive, of course, especially in America. Andrew, Wolves have improved. Will be a tough game. It will be indeed. And Daniela, as we got Ipswich the last game, a little chat about Delap maybe offering some youth players in the deal to sell or loan. I'd like Delap, but I think quite a lot of teams will like Delap. Daniela, I heard Matthias Cunha wants to leave Wolves. It wouldn't surprise me at all. Right. Who's going to stay and go? So I did a show during the week, but thank you. I can't remember who it was now for suggesting it. So let's remind ourselves what's happening this summer. We've got 3 players out on loan. We've got Kurt Zuma. Do you remember him? We've got Maxwell Cornet and we've got Naif Gerd. I don't think any of those 3 players will come back to work. Actually, Zuma is out of contract at the end of the season. I think Cornet, I know he's injured at the moment at Genoa, but he should be back after this international break. And if he continues to do well, I think Cornet will finally be sold. And then the big question mark over Gerd. Will he stay? Will he go? I think what Graham Potter will do, he will assess the player and he will see if the player wants to stay and Potter wants him, then Gerd will stay. If the player doesn't want to stay, he'll be sold 25 million or a little bit more. Players out of contract at the end of the season. Now, there's a belief that all of these players will go. Zuma, Soufal, Antonio, Fabianski, Creswell, and Danny Ings. Now, I think of those 6 players who are coming to the end of their contracts, I think possibly 2 will be staying. I think Fabianski is likely to stay, and I'll explain why in a minute. And I think Aaron Creswell is likely to stay as well. We've heard an awful lot about what's happening with Soufal, upset that he's not being given the promises that he's were made to him with new contracts. Now, getting on to Fabianski, it's a possibility. There's an awful lot of talk about West Ham United looking for a new number 1 in the summer. I'm not so sure that that's going to happen. I think Potter has got an awful lot of players that he needs to replace, and I don't think goalie is going to be a top priority in the summer, which means that Fabianski could be asked to extend his deal by 1 more year in order to continue to be a backup to Areola next season. Soufal, like I've just said, apparently unhappy with broken promises, and he looks destined to be leaving. Look, he's been a great servant to West Ham United, 32 years of age. I think the game's passing him by. We've seen him at his best. We've also seen him, unfortunately, at his worst when players with just half a bit of speed will just go by him as if he's not even there. I bid him farewell. I think he's done well for us, but I think we need to move on from Soufal. Aaron Creswell, I've already mentioned. Another year, why not? And the reason being is because of the experience that Ollie Scholes is getting from that player. Scholes himself has mentioned Creswell as being a good support unit for him and learning off him all the time. Ollie Scholes will be our number one left wing back next season. I think Aaron Creswell will continue to help him in that journey. Antonio, look, I know Antonio has got ambitions about coming back after the horrific car crash, etc. But I honestly cannot see Antonio playing, Premier League football again. I hope I'm wrong. But I'm just not so sure. And I think sentiment can't get in the way of keeping Antonio next season. I want you guys to tell me who you think will go and who you think are going to be retained. And then we've got 3 players on loan, of course. And we've already talked about Ferguson. But of those 3 players, I don't think we're going to keep. I think we'll keep one of them. To be quite honest with you, I think that's going to be Todibo. I think Jean-Claire Todibo. Apparently, there was a story today that we could have triggered his clause because now the obligation to buy has been triggered. Apparently, we could have paid for him in the January window. Then we could have sold him immediately for a profit. But Todibo wants to be part of West Ham's plans, so he's not going anywhere. The 3 out of contract players, as I've said, these are the ones that are going to be retained. Now, of course, Todebo's out of contract because he's on loan. So these are the ones I think are going to be retained moving forward into the new season. Yes, I know you're all going to be like going nuts because we've got older players there. Creswell's 35. Fabianski's going to be 40 next month. Well, April. But I think as backup, I think it makes a lot of sense. What about the players that haven't really had much impact at the club this season? Will we keep any of those? And there, of course, include Fullkrug, Guilherme, Rodriguez, Andy Irving, Gerd, who I mentioned a moment ago, and Maxwell Cornet. I think Rodriguez is almost destined to be leaving. I think we'll be selling him at the end of this season without a shadow of a doubt. He'll probably return to Spain. Will a Gerd return from Spain? I think that remains to be seen. I've already talked about that. I think Potter wants to see what he's about, and they'll have a conversation. And if it's an agreement that Gerd wants to stay and Potter wants to keep him, then he'll keep him. If he doesn't, then I think we'll get a good price for him, and a Gerd will go, and we'll look for a replacement player in the transfer window. Will he retain Guilherme? Now, we keep hearing stories that Guilherme, there's a lot of clubs in for him, Feyenoord and various other clubs in Europe and clubs in Brazil, etc. Now, if it's to be believed, Potter stopped anyone from buying him in the January window. Apparently, he wants to keep him. Now, things could obviously change in the summertime. It could be completely different in the summer. So let's see what happens with him. But I think he might be retained. Andy Irving, used as a utility player for next season, is very possible. He played in the left of a centre-back 3 during the friendly game against Brentford last week, and it's possible that he could be kept as a utility player. Let's see what happens there. Because if we lose Guilherme, and if we lose all the players who are at the end of their contracts, and if we lose all the players that aren't impressing, etc., you could be talking about losing 17, 18, 19 players in one go. That's just not possible. Fullkrug, as another example, will he be given another season? There's a chance, quite possibly, that if we keep a striker, it could be Fullkrug. I know his injury record doesn't bode well, etc., but again, if we sell him, we're going to have to end up selling him for a massive loss, and then go out and buy ourselves another striker. So it's possible. Cornet, as I've already mentioned, if he stays fit, Cornet gets sold to Genoa on a permanent this summer. The players that are guaranteed to stay, I believe, are going to be Somerville, Bowen, Wan-Bissaka, and Kilman. Now, you can't just build a squad around just 4 players, which is why I've got question marks over a lot of players, like the likes of Guilherme, Irving, Fullkrug, etc., because you just can't get rid of all players all at once. Now, I know there's an awful lot of talk about Wan-Bissaka being there's interest from Liverpool to replace Terence
Terence, I can never remember. I keep mixing him up with Terence Trent D'Arby. Trent Arnold, you know what? Trent Alexander-Arnold. And apparently there's interest with Wan-Bissaka. We're not letting Wan-Bissaka go. I'll be very, very surprised if we do. Dinos is a player that's likely to be sold. He's just not happened for him at West Ham. So he could be almost definitely leaving the club. Emerson, possibly back to Italy, but another question mark. The other week we were talking about Emerson, looking at going back to Italy. Now, apparently he wants to stay. So this is why I always tell you to take everything with a pinch of salt, but a question mark over whether Emerson stays or goes. James Ward-Prowse, someone alluded to it in the comments that Potter likes the way Ward-Prowse keeps possession of the ball. Now, it will probably be quite difficult to sell James Ward-Prowse in the summer. He's on very high wage. He's on about 120, 115, 120 grand a week, something like that. We bought him for 30 odd million pounds. Well, certainly not getting that back. So we're going to have to take a massive loss. But who's going to pay his wages? I don't know. At 30, 31 years of age, by the time, the summer comes, I'm not sure. I mean, it'll be probably difficult to sell him in the summer. So maybe, just maybe, Potter may consider keeping him as cover as well. Then we ask the question, do any of these four players leave? Souček, Paqueta, Kudus, Alvarez. Now, the jury's out on this, on all four players. Many will say get rid of all of them. Many will say keep them. Yet again, we have this issue of we've got so many players leaving anyway, naturally, because of contracts ending, etc., etc., and obvious players that are leaving, like the likes of Rodriguez and Dinos, etc. Then you start asking yourself, are we now going to start cutting into the core of our team? I'm not so sure. I think maybe one of these four players could be leaving in the summer. Maybe one. And if I put money on it, it will probably be Paqueta. He's got to get through the FA hearing first of all. He's got to be found not guilty in order for us to be able to sell him. But it could be someone like Paqueta. I don't know, but there's an argument for and against every one of these players staying or going. Alvarez, he's really our only natural defensive midfielder out of all the midfielders that we've got. So you can see a good reason why you would probably keep him. But he could probably fetch a decent price. He could probably fetch 50, 55 million in the transfer market. Souček, he'll have 2 years left on his contract at the end of this season. It could be the right time to sell him. He's in demand. Apparently clubs are coming in and offering another 20, 30 grand a week more. If that's true, that's a possibility. With 2 years left on his contract, he's been a great servant for West Ham. If we get 19, 20, 25 million pound for him, we paid 19 million for him. We'll get the money back. So there's a good reason why you could sell him in the summer. But at the same time, there's a very good reason to keep him. He's a goal machine. As one of the viewers said a couple of weeks ago, where would we be without Souček's goals? Probably much nearer the relegation zone than we'd like to think. And then, Kudus. There's a lot of talk. I mean, even I've said it many a time. Even I've said that Kudus will give us 2 seasons and then he's likely to go. But with so many players possibly leaving West Ham United in the summer, would you want Kudus to go? And I know a lot of fans are going, well, he's been rubbish, etc. Let's not forget what the first season was like. He was superb in the first season. He's going through a lull at the moment, but my gut tells me that this player will be back to his best again next season. I'd rather, if he's going to stay in the Premier League, I'd rather that be in a West Ham shirt than seeing him doing it for Liverpool or Arsenal or any other team. And then you've got Paqueta. Is it time for him to go? It's quite possible that it may be. It's not been great for Paqueta. Quite a torrid time at the club with regards to all this FA hearing, etc., etc. Maybe if he gets on, even if he gets off with this FA hearing, maybe it'd be time to say thank you, mate. And move him on. I think he wants to go. I think West Ham might sort of maybe say, all right, maybe it's time for him to go. And then we've got academy players, who steps in and who's going to come into the squad next season. There's a clamour
for a number of academy players to come in. I don't think they will all make it, to be quite honest with you. I think George Earthy is having an all right time at Bristol City this season, but quite possibly he'll go back out on loan again next season to a championship team. Lewis Orford is currently doing really well for the under-21s, but he's not experienced regular competitive football. So there's a high chance that Lewis Orford is likely to go out on loan next season as well. I mentioned Callum Marshall earlier on and various Patrick Kelly, etc. They could all go back out on loan again next season. The two players that I think will be staying at West Ham or being part of the senior squad are going to be Freddie Potts and Ollie Scarles, who's already made it. So if you're getting rid of quite a number of players, you've got to, and you've only got maybe a couple of academy players coming in. You can't just get rid of a whole pile of players. It's going to take more than one summer transfer window to get the squad right. So my gut tells me that, we've got something like 12, 13 players that are on the cards to possibly being sold. That's quite a lot of players to let go of, to be quite honest with you. Let me see if I've got that. Is that the one? There you go. So this gives you a summary of the players that I think could be. I've still got question marks over some of them. There are 13 players on that list that are going to go. Soufal goes for nothing. We'll save a bit of money on his salary. Zuma goes for nothing. Carlos Soler, I forgot to mention in more depth. He's on loan. He'll go for nothing. Antonio, I think, will go. I think Ings will go. I think Ferguson won't be kept. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4. You've got 6 players currently at the club that will go for no money at all because they're end of their contracts and so on and so forth. And then if you sell other players, if you sell Fullkrug, you might get 15 million for him. If you sell Emerson, you might get about 7 million for him. If Paqueta gets off his FA hearing, you might get maybe 40 million for him. And then you've got a Gerd, 25 million for him. You've got Mavropanos, 9 million, give or take, maybe not even that. You've got the likes of Rodriguez and Cornet, 5 million each, something like that. So you can see quite a lot of players might be leaving West Ham United in the summer, and we're not going to get an awful lot of money for them. Up to 13 players going, you can get anything between 60, 70 million pounds up to just over 100 million if we can sell Paqueta. Yes, you could argue, well, you can get even more money by selling some of the bigger players, but you still got to replace them. So if you've already got something like 13 players possibly leaving West Ham United, let's say for argument's sake, we take the question marks off. So that still means you've got 9 players possibly leaving West Ham this summer. That's quite a lot of players that are going, and quite a lot of players going for next to nothing, which means that you've got to go and get 9 players. And if you've only got 2 players from the academy to replace 9 players, you've still got 7 players to buy. So you see the problem. We're all saying get rid of Guilherme, get rid of Kudus, get rid of Areola, get rid of all these players. Yeah, sure. Go and get rid of them all. And then you're going to find yourself with a massive hole in the squad come the summer. You're not going to replace every single player. So you see the dilemma. You see the dilemma that Potter has got. It's not an easy dilemma to overcome. If you've got possibly half a dozen players leaving anyway naturally because their contracts are ending, and then you're going to start looking at selling this player, that player, etc., the likes of Dinos, the likes of Rodriguez, all of a sudden you're looking at double figures in the number of players leaving. Not an easy task, is it? Right, I've talked quite a lot. I'm going to take a sip of water and see what you guys think of what I've just said. Good evening to you, Adam. I hope you're well, all right. Never too late, mate. Never too late. You're absolutely right, Trodge. Cunha misses the game, thank goodness. But they've got a couple of other decent players that we've got to watch out for. Who else have we got? John. I've not given up on Ferguson. If he wants to come to us, he'll prove it by showing us what he can do. It's a win-win situation. He's got 8 games left because he can't play against Brighton. Tash, we get Southampton. We get Southampton on the 19th of April. I believe that's correct, Tash. Trodge, whoever we sign will be displaced by Antonio next season. There you go. You say it in jest, but almost true. Daniela, we have also improved, also only let 3 goals in the last 5 games. Absolutely. Andrew, Soler, Kudus, Paqueta, Mavropanos, Soufal, Antonio, Ings, Fullkrug, Ward-Prowse, Gerd, Emerson, all gone. But you see my point. You start getting rid of all these players. That's a hell of a lot of players to replace. I don't think Ward-Prowse will go. Emerson, I'm not so sure. Agerd, I'm not so sure. Fullkrug, I'm not so sure. But Antonio, Sufal, Dinos, maybe Paqueta. See, all of a sudden you start questioning, well, should we be getting rid of Kudus? Should we be getting rid of Ward-Prowse? You see how many players might be leaving all in one go. Not easy. Daniela, Sufal has a great heart for the club. He absolutely does. But, we've got to move on. We've got to get better players. We've got to get younger players. Bolin, Sufal, good servant. Time to say thanks and thank you and move on. Rodriguez, surely leaving. Exactly. There are certain players that you will now that you would say are nailed on that should be leaving the club. And the Rodriguez one, I don't disagree with. Frog, I wish everyone would stop mentioning Dinos. It makes me queasy. There you go. Trudge, if we pay his wages, probably fresh. Rodriguez, I think. Look, I think Rodriguez will go. I think he is one player that will almost certainly be leaving. Berlin, Fab at 40 for the game time he'll be asked for is no problem in my opinion. Good backup. Yeah, totally. MJ. Would really like to see Guilherme get some minutes, especially whilst Bowen keeps getting utilised up top. It's a good point, and maybe the young lad should have been given more game time. But he is another player. The jury's split. Some fans are going to get rid of him. Some fans are saying, keep him. I keep him. You never know. He might come as good as we think. Please do hit the like button. If you are new to the channel, it would be lovely if you can become a subscriber. It costs absolutely nothing to subscribe. All the content is free. Whether you're a subscriber or not, whether you're a new subscriber, existing subscriber, or not a subscriber at all, please do hit the like button of the video. It really helps with the channel. Danny, Soler has not impressed me. Mediocre, and we need more energy in midfield with faster transitions too. Again, I don't disagree with that. Steve, keep Guilherme. Andrew, keep Guilherme. Paul, get Guilherme on the pitch. Good evening to you, Gary. I hope you're well, mate. Trudge, loan Guilherme out. That's not necessarily a bad shout. If we could afford to do it in terms of how many players we have left, no, I'm not against that. I'm not against that. Bolin, if someone comes in with 15 million for Irving, then sell him. Fair play. But then if someone comes in for 80 million for Mavropanos, 85 million for Kudus, 50 million for Paqueta, 80 million for Bowen, the list goes on. 50 million for Alvarez. Are you going to take it all? Are you going to let them all go, as well as all the players that are leaving on with the end of their contracts? Sean, keep Guilherme and keep Irvin. Who else have we got? Joan, Fresh V. Good evening, Joan. Fresh V. I didn't understand that. You're gonna have to say that again. Steve, Irving hasn't let us down, so keep. There you go. Who else have we got? Danny, Potts is back as well. Absolutely, mentioned him. I've already mentioned him. Who else have we got? The hard line. Hey, Stel, the hard line. Are you all singing songs to each other? Howard, how are you, mate? John, Mavropanos, Rodriguez, Soler are good to go. Paqueta will stay. So will Kudus unless he goes to Saudi. Oh, yes, I did the Saudi show the other day. 84 million, apparently. They stingy gits. They can't even meet the asking price of 85. They had to give us only 84. I don't think he'll go there, but who knows? Stephen, good evening, mate. I hope you're well. Joan, Freshfielder, totally agree. Keep those two. Gary, sell everyone out. Tash, I'm looking forward to next season. Let's get through this season first, Tash. Trodge, Irving needs to stay until he scores a screamer from 30 yards. It's coming. Andrew, Potts, Skulls, Casey, Earthy could all be involved next season. I don't think so. In all honesty, I really don't. Potts, yes. Skulls, yes. Casey, probably not. Earthy, probably not. I think the latter two will probably go out on loan. Be an interesting lineup as well. What will be Toho? You need to give me more detail. Hayden, keep Ward-Prowse, keep Irvin. See, people have got different opinions on various players. Some want them gone, some want them to stay. Kudus will go. I don't know, is the honest truth. My gut tells me he may do, but I think we will try and keep him in all. And maybe if we sell Paqueta, and then we need a number 10, then Kudus could be that number 10. It's possible. It's possible. Toho. Socek will score tomorrow. No one else knows where the back of the net is. Isn't Guido a natural CDM? Rodriguez, meant to be Gary, meant to be. But he's a natural, better, decent CDM in Spanish league, but certainly not in the Premier League. Joan, we have to buy a star midfielder. Potter is choosing 2023 midfield. Paul, Souček to Everton for big money. And yet he's going to be one of our top goal scorers again this season. Andrew, Alvarez has improved under Potter, but for the right price, I would be open to him leaving. For the right price, you'd be open to any player leaving. That's the problem, isn't it? For the right price, you would even sell Jared Bowen for the right price. If a team came in and said, we'll give you £110 million for Jared Bowen, are you going to go, oh no, he's West Ham through and through, not on your bike? You're going to go, let me have a think about it, aren't you? We don't like it, but you bloody well think about it, wouldn't you? If a team came in and offered us 110, 120 million pounds for Jared Bowen, would you not consider it? Of course you have to. So that's the issue. How many offers are we going to have to turn down in the summertime in order to be able to keep a decent sized squad? Because at this rate, everyone's got a price on their head. John, Aaron Wan-Bissaka wanted to return to London. I can't see him wanting to go to bandit country. Stephen, Kudus will bounce back next. My gut feeling as well. Kudus will. My gut feeling is that he will bounce back and he'll be better than ever. And I'd rather, if he stays in the Premier League, I'd rather that be for us. Josh, good evening to you, mate, as well. Looking forward to us playing tomorrow. Let's hope the results are favourable and we pull ahead. Let's hope so too. I hope I'm not going all the way up there for nothing. Frog, I know we're fourth from bottom, but Arsenal, for one, have bigger problems than us, in my opinion. Man United as well, for that matter. It's a good point. You know, just because we're down there doesn't mean there have to be wholesale changes. There are going to be big changes anyway. You know, like I said, repeat what I've said, because a number of the players are out of contract anyway at the end of the season. But I think that there's just more tweaks required than wholesale changes. I really do. You know, we get maybe 3 or 4 decent players added to a good core number of players staying. I think we'll be superb next season. I really do. Do we have to have wholesale changes? I'm not so sure. Like someone has just said, Alvarez has been a lot better under Potter. I think what Potter is doing is he's getting better out of each player. Paqueta has been decent. Alvarez has been better. Ward-Prowse coming back has looked decent under Potter. You know, he's getting the best out of them. I think we just need to add to those players rather than just going, let them all go, let them all go, let them all go, start again. You don't know what you're going to get next season. If you make too many changes is as bad as not making enough changes sometimes. Paqueta to City, possible. James, I often wonder which division we'd be playing if it wasn't for Souček. His goals have kept us in the Premier League. Trod, sounds like we need to sell to buy. 85 million will get us 3 quality players. It will indeed. But at the same time, we could sell other players to get that 85 million. You know, players who are on the periphery, you know, like Mavropanos and players like that, and build up that 85. Yes, it's selling more players, but you know, what would you rather do? Would you rather sell 1 good player and get 85 million, or sell 3 players who are not really that good and get near as damn it 80 million and then buy another players to replace them? You see the dilemma. You see the dilemma that we have. Andrew, if Kudus is happy to stay, I will definitely keep him. But if he starts acting up and twerking other clubs, take the money and rebuild. Yes, totally agree. Don't disagree with that. Highest. You lot are blabbering like those stars will choose you. Fun fact is, players who are that good to be tagged star will be wanted by better teams, so you won't get any star players. Well, we have got star players before, and there's always an opportunity to get them again, but we've got to have something to offer. Europe, for example. Steve, never keep an unhappy player who wants out at his prime. Sell. Absolutely. But at this moment in time, no one is suggesting that Kudus wants to go, as an example. Toha, what about the Kante fella? Keep, sell for a baguette. Kante, the guy from France who plays for Paris FC, who are in League 2, who doesn't get any game time. You tell me, do we keep him or get rid of him? Frog, I didn't mean that disrespectfully to him, but he's playing or not getting game time in a League 2 club. Frog, getting 3 in the net would be something. Tomorrow night, mate. Tomorrow night. Highest. What makes you think he wants to leave? Who?
What makes me think who wants to leave? You've got to give a name. Otherwise, I'm guessing. Joan, but a star can be born unexpectedly. You mean academy players? Possible. Bolin, don't think he's even been playing that much for his old team. Toha, who you talk? No clue. Andrew, Ings has got to be one of the worst signings the club has ever made, considering he earns about 115 grand a week, and absolutely he wasn't a great signing. John, will Potts go out on another loan? Portsmouth would love to keep him for another season. I think he's done his spell on loan. I think he's now back. I think he will back. I think he'll be back with the club in the close season, and I think he will become part of the senior squad. I'll be very, very surprised if he doesn't. Danny, Ings, 6.2 million a year on wages. That's about 2 million quid a goal. Terrible decision to sign him. I know. Gennaro, Sufal, Cornet, Dinos, Ward-Prowse, Rodriguez, Antonio out for me. I don't particularly want to see Souček or Kudus go, but if we're offered decent money for either, I think I'll take the money and reinvest. That's fair. Sufal, yeah. Cornet, yes. Dinos, yes. Ward-Prowse, question mark. Rodriguez, yes. Antonio, yes. Agree. Isn't Ings on about 100? He's on about 120, 115, 125 grand a week. Yeah. Leon, how many players did we bring in last summer and got worse? Having a big transfer pot doesn't mean we make the right choices. Really good point. And that's my point, really. You know, you see the number of players that could potentially be leaving. It's not always good to make such massive changes in a squad. Andrew, Paqueta will definitely be off once he's cleared. It's very possible. It's very possible. Highest. So you lot want to sell a player who's had a bad season, but we all know in his good season he kills it and play. Highest. We've different opinions on different players, mate. No one is suggesting that. Can now understand you're talking about Kudus. No, I don't think I've seen anyone saying. Well, maybe one or two have said it, but there are as many that are saying keep him as there are saying sell him. And fine, and don't get hung up on just one player. I've talked about 20 odd players that could possibly be leaving West Ham United. So don't get hung up on one. Highest. N5 Hammond, good evening to you. Well, let's see all these players go and they'll be replaced by a load of bang average defensive ones. Maybe. I don't know. Bolin. Bearing in mind we have 38 game season. Next year, what size squad? Well, you should always have a big enough squad. You should always have a 22, 23-man squad. Shouldn't have much less than that. 25-man squad. Fred, a lot of dead wood to clear out. That's it. You know, there's a lot of dead wood to clear out, you know, and so would you want to sell on top of the dead wood some of your best players? I'm not so sure. Trodge, also, it helps if you play with your head up at this level. Kudus, I know, look, I like Kudus. I think Kudus is a fantastic player. So I wouldn't want to sell him, but if a decent price comes in, who knows? Bolin, bearing in mind we're at 38, I've done that one. Who else have we got here? Let's scroll down. Usual. Sell Kudus for 85 mil. That way we extend the fabulous Danny Ings contract for another 5 years. Dean, good evening, mate. I hope you're well. It's essential that our summer recruitment addresses the deficiencies in the squad and we don't have the meddling from a certain someone. Absolutely agree. Look, in my mind, what do we need to get in the summer? We definitely need another one, maybe even two centre-backs. If a Gerd doesn't come back, and if we sell Dinos, we need at least two centre-backs. We probably need a backup for Wan-Bissaka or someone to compete with Wan-Bissaka. On the left side, I think we'll be all right. If Emerson stays with Scarles and maybe even Creswell, we're okay on the left side. In the middle, I think, that's why I want to keep the likes of Alvarez and maybe either Ward-Prowse and or Souček. But we do need to have a box-to-box midfielder. We know that's another priority and absolutely a priority. Somerville will be back. He'll be playing out on the left-hand side. Bone will be on the right. We need a striker. We need a striker in there. We know a number 10 could be the likes of Kudus if Paqueta goes, but we need a striker. So another one or two centre-backs, a box-to-box midfielder, one or two strikers. That's 4 or 5 players already. I absolutely agree with you. Sean, Kudus supposed bid 100 mil, which is, I know. I was being facetious about the 1 mil. Bolin, the reason I'd say take 15 mil for Irving is it's almost all pure profit. So the accountants, it's a good deal. And in some magic way would probably free up 30 million in transfer fees in PSR terms. And that's a good point. Yeah, fair play. Frog, Kudus has pretty much only turned up against teams wearing red shirts this season. I've heard that several times before. Anthony, Kudus won't go to Saudi. He likes playing for West Ham. I don't think he'll go to Saudi, but I think he'll be looking to see if any other Premier League team come in for him. Fred, team needs pace badly. Guilherme should get a few games now. We are safe and see what happens. Fair play. Highest, I'm not going to, you're just going on about one player, Highest, and you're getting yourself into a frenzy. So I'm not going to put your comments out. Because you do it every show. No disrespect. I respect everyone's comments, but please, mate, I've talked about 20 players that might be leaving, but all you're talking about is Kudus. Moutster, we've got to start playing Soufal up front, so at least get him a goal before he possibly leaves. Good point. Joan, Kudus needs support. Our attackers need feeding. That's a good point. James, Arsenal have problems. They will beat Real Madrid. Will they? We'll never hear the last of it. Andrew, we must be the slowest team in the Premier League. That is the first thing Potter rectifies before the start of next season. Good point. Joan, looking forward to Somerville returning. Absolutely agree. Navadius, how are you? I hope you're well. Too many changes is what Lopetegui did, and it went terrible. This is exactly my point. You look at the number of players that could possibly be leaving, and I probably haven't even got them all there. You've already got 13 players on that list without the likes of others that could be potentially sold, Alvarez, Kudus, etc., etc. 13 players possibly. Even if you take those 4 question marks, that's still 9 players that could possibly leave in the summer. That's a lot of players to replace, Novadius. You're absolutely correct there. Who else have we got? Let's scroll down. Huge. Good evening to you. I hope you're well. Soler, Ings, Agerd, Kudus, Paqueta, Rodriguez, Dinos, Fullkrug, all to leave. Don't know. Kudus, don't know. Paqueta, don't know. Fullkrug, don't know. But Soler, Ings, Agerd, don't know. There's a lot of question marks there. Okay, Highest, let's do one. So you sell Kudus, then what player are you going to replace him with? There are many players that we can replace every player with. No player is indispensable. You got to understand that. No matter how much you love a player, you will always find a player to replace a player. Because players as exciting as Kudus will cost, and if they are not that good, better teams. Well, let me correct you there, because Brighton, one of the things that Potter and Carl McCauley did at Brighton is they brought players in, really good players, sold them at a high price, went out and bought other good players in. That's their trademark. That's what they do. So to sell Kudus doesn't mean the dismantling of West Ham United. We've had great players in the past, the Pyatt's, the Di Canios, etc., etc. They come, they go, you replace them. Kudus is no different to any other player. Yes, he's a very good footballer. Yes, I would like to keep him. Do I think we're going to keep him? I think it's going to be difficult to do so. But if we do not keep him, we will go out and buy an exciting young player that's going to smash it in the Premier League. And then we're going to be having the same conversation with your, Highest, whoever it is, that's got an admiration for that other player that we bring in 2 years' time. When we go, we may need to sell him because he wants to move on. And your equivalent, Highest, will go, oh, that means the collapse of West Ham United. It won't mean the collapse of West Ham United. It will mean one player leaving who's a very good footballer, but will be replaced. So, mate, you've got to, get off that high horse. Josh, I think what's harmed us most after Rice leaving was the lack of players in leadership role. Consider that he was groomed for captaincy by Noble, who retired the season before. Good point. We need a leader. But ironically, we've got several leaders. Alvarez, he's the captain of his national team. Ward-Prowse was captain of Southampton. Who else has been captain? Was Kilman captain of Wolves? I could be wrong. May not have been. Can't remember. But we've got leaders. But they're just not wearing the armband. Gennaro, every player has their price, especially with Sully at the helm. Every player has a price, full stop. Doesn't matter who's at the helm. Toha, wasn't Kante a starred in Pearl? He is, he may be, he could be, but he's still in Paris, hardly plays any games for League Two club. Look, Paris FC, apparently they're in line for promotion. But my understanding is he's still not getting, I think he played a couple of minutes in one game. Who else we got? Josh. Maybe an unpopular opinion. I'd like us to prioritise the FA Cup or the Carabao Cup. I hate seeing Man City, Man United, Liverpool farm it. Was very happy to see Newcastle win
the Carabao Cup. I agree. Love to win a domestic trophy. Would be a great day out. Troj. Tadeo seems to be a strong character. We need those types as much as captains. Absolutely agree. I like Tadeo. I liked him from the minute he arrived. I know there's a lot of question marks over him. I like him. And I like the interview he did. He says, yeah, stay mania. I didn't know he was married. He's got kids. He's 25 years of age. I'm not saying that's wrong, but fantastic. He's 25 years of age. He's married. He stays at home, doesn't go out. He's got a family lifestyle, etc. And he's settled. And all this talk about, clubs want him, Man United want him, etc. He's settled. Not only settled, he's settled in London. And apparently, if the stories and the rumors are true, there was a talk about us being able to sign him up permanently in January, so then we could sell him for a profit, but he didn't want to go, even if that would have happened. If that's true. I don't think it is. But anyway, I like him. I like him a lot. I think he's going to become one of our better players. Who else have we got? Joan, we all love Kudus. Tell Highest that we all love Kudus, so he can shut up for a minute, please. Andrew, I love Souček and I'm happy with him to be part of the squad for next season, but I hope Potter evolves our playing style, which will restrict Souček from starting games. Not necessarily, just playing in a different way. I get your point, though. Josh is answering to Highest. Who are you a fan of? Kudus is the centre of a lot of conversations because he shows so much promise. And if you watch every week, you'll understand the frustration of some fans. That's a good point, Highest. Are you a fan of Kudus or are you a fan of West Ham United? Because if you're a fan of Kudus, I understand your point of being upset that he might be leaving. Bolin, Highest, discussing whether it's a good idea to cash in on Kudus. 85 million is not hating on him. It's not hating on him at all. No one hates Kudus. We love him. We think he's a great player. We know he's having a bad time of it. We know he's going to come good. No one hates Kudus. Christ. Mate, get off that soapbox. James, our midfield is pitiful, need pace and skill. Souček is so slow. Paqueta needs to go. Who else have we got? I'm going to scroll down. The Kudus conversation is now getting quite boring. Leon, is that what we buy players for one good season, bad the next season, is supposed to get better each year? Unfortunately, Leon, no one expects a player to get bad. It's just unfortunate. He's just having a bad season. I think Kudus is a very good player. Andrew says the same. Kudus is a very good player, but he's definitely not irreplaceable. No player is irreplaceable. Di Canio was not irreplaceable. Devonshire was not irreplaceable. Pyatt was not irreplaceable. Every player can be replaced. Simple as that. You will always find the next Pyatt. You will always find the next Kudus. You will always find the next Di Canio. You will always find the next Brooking. You will always find a better player at some point in the future. Let's scroll down. Anthony, Stel, we didn't replace Hilaire and the Italian striker when they left. That was Moyes' choice because he didn't want them. But actually, ironically, Scamacca was the replacement to Hilaire, but Scamacca didn't work. Who else we got? Kilman was Wolves captain. I thought he was. Who else have we got? Navadius. Paris FC is part now of Red Bull. They are indeed. So they are interested in developing other teams' players. That's a really good point because we bought him and then loaned him back and then they bought them. That's a really good point. Main reason why Kante isn't getting game time. That's it. Highest, mate, you got to tell me, are you a Kudus fan or are you a West Ham fan? Because I'm getting the feeling that you're not really a West Ham fan, but you're just a Kudus fan and you're getting really upset. I think you really need to understand, Highest, no one is dissing Mohamed Kudus. Everyone believes he's a great player, a fantastic talent, but no one is irreplaceable. Andrew, if Di Canio hadn't been of a crazy bastard, he would never have played for us, was top draw Champions League quality. Exactly. Man United came in for him. He turned around and said, no, thank you. West Ham have been good to me. I'm staying with them. That's, honouring your contract. Markster, I've got a $5 on the 3-1 win to the Mighty Hammers with Wan-Bissaka and Bone to score anytime. Good luck with that, mate. The drinks are on you when you win. Done. You know what? I almost didn't do a show tonight. And you know what? I'm glad I did. I'm glad I did a show. It's been quite lively, hasn't it, Highest? It's been very lively. Thank you all for watching and listening. Navadius. Still, do you remember how the fan base were crying last season that Kudus' release clause was low and now they want him gone? Mate, it's madness. It's madness. Kudus is a great player, without a shadow of a doubt. Kudus will come good. I want him to come good in a West Ham shirt. If we sell him, then sell him abroad. I do not want to see him in an Arsenal shirt or in a Liverpool shirt or any other Premier League shirt next season. If he stays in the Premier League, I want him at West Ham. Like I said, people, if you've enjoyed the show, please hit the like button. Please become a subscriber of the channel. Thank you all for watching. Thank you all for listening. It's been quite lively. Yeah, quite enjoyed it, actually. Have a good evening. Look out for the show after the game tomorrow evening. I'll be doing one straight after the game, so look out for that. Coming from the Molyneux or just outside or wherever we are, so long as we're standing and can still talk, we'll be doing a show. See you all after the game tomorrow, and have a good Tuesday.